live right now.
2, 1.
You are now live.
We're live, Spence. Good to see you, mate. How are you?
Well, it's early here. I've had my first cup of coffee, so I'm better than I was an hour ago, mate. How are you?
Really good, mate. I'm losing my voice, so I apologise. But tonight we're going to talk on Facebook Live, Super League Facebook Live again. We were there 3 days ago talking about the men's race. Since then, we've announced our women's race. Spectacular field. You've had a look at the list. What do you think?
It's exciting. Once again, you've done a marvelous job. There's a lot of people that could win this race. To be honest with you, it's going to be a tough one to pick it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get Stacey in the background again to show everybody out there the women's list. I'm sure everybody's seen it. She's going to play the field, and we'll go play the video, and we'll go through each woman individually and talk about it.
Sounds good.
Here she goes now, and
Here we go.
There you go.
there you go. But I guess the first takeaway, mate, is you're seeing Nicola Spirig's back. It's the first race. Nicola Spirig, the London Olympic champion. We saw it finish a close second to Gwen Jorgensen in the Rio Olympics. Gwen's obviously out. She's just at the birth of her first child. Nicola just had a baby, her second, 3 months ago. Put her hand up and said, I couldn't get in the race quick enough. What are your thoughts on Nicola?
Well, when you've had as much experience as she has, and you've been on the podium as many times as she has, you would be silly to bet against her. Yes, it is the first race in a while, but when you have that hunger and you have that kind of motivation, you would not want to bet against this girl. She's class, pure class.
Yeah, 35. She's a veteran now. I remember her coming in as a junior. She's won absolutely everything. I think no one will ever forget the sprint at the London Olympics against Lisa Norden. And then to see her come back at Rio. Gwen had really dominated triathlon for the 4 years since those London Olympics. Nicola had gone off, had her first baby, become a mother, decided to make a comeback, and was absolutely devastating, I thought, in Rio. And when we spoke to her about Super League, she said, this is the style of racing I want to get involved with, I want to do again. And 3 months ago, she was pregnant. And in 2 more weeks, she'll be racing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
When she races on, when she's going to be on the island, it's going to be interesting to see. She's not going to have much time to kind of dust herself off, is she? Because this style of racing does not allow you any kind of wiggle room. So It's going to be interesting to see how much it's going to take out of her to come back, or maybe it's not going to take anything. Like some people can come back very, very quickly, and some people takes a little bit more time. She hasn't got time kind of racing, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. I guess the other takeaway, when you look at the start list, we've got 25 women there, 4 of them USA, Brits all over this, 5 starters from Great Britain. And let's look at the Brits racing. You have Emma PALLANT, who, for a lot of people out there, don't know Emma PALLANT. I have a lot of time for this girl. I did a Facebook Live with her a couple of months. Lovely girl, super talent. Was always sort of sidelined by the federation. Never really got the opportunity. If you take your head back to 2012. Vicky Holland, who went on to win bronze, who will be joining us on Hamilton Island, one of our contracted athletes, not racing, is injured. But her first race, Emma PALLANT, had a sprint finish with her in Blenheim. Is it Blenheim? The sprint race against Vicky Holland, her first ever triathlon. But Emma PALLANT has put her hand up, says she can do some damage here. She's a dual duathlon world champion, slid up to that longer distance racing. She's won 370.3 events this year. She's a British triathlon champion. A spectacular 1500 meter runner. I'm going to say she got, I think, bronze at the under 23 world championships in the 1500 meter as a young kid. A lot of time, a lot of talent. We're all talking about non-Stanford. We're all talking about Jodie Stimpson. We're talking about all the other Brits. But I see out for Emma PALLANT.
You know what? I think she's had a hard go of it. I think she's been somewhat unfairly treated by the federation. Yeah, you can always say, well, you've got to do the results when they count. But she's a very talented athlete, very strong athlete. She just competed in the aquathon, the World Championships, and she did well there. So she's an all-round athlete. She can run. She can definitely swim and bike. So she's definitely one we've got to keep an eye on. She's going to be on the front anyway for much of the racing.
Yeah, you've got young Sophie Caldwell, the under-23 superstar out of Great Britain. They've been talking Sophie up for the last couple of years. She's really delivered last year with a spectacular year. This year again, she's backed that up. We did the same at Hamilton Island with the men. We're giving these youth, a lot of the juniors, start because I really believe this style of racing suits them. They're aggressive, they're mistake-free, they're ambitious, and that's this style of racing. I think young Sophie could do really well. And Lucy Hall, who we saw at London, she was put on the London team, an unbelievable swimmer, alongside the Spanish girl Caroline Routier. They're basically the two super swimmers. And if I hate talking about the old days. When you look back at when we were doing this in the 90s, especially on the women's side, the Barb Lindquists, the Loretta Harrops, the Nicole Hackett's, these super swimmers, get that little gap, were very difficult to beat.
Remember Melanie mentioned, they were just so strong. They were just so strong. These girls, again, before the race, if these girls can get some kind of collaboration going, and they can stretch that elapsed, it's going to be interesting to see if they can, because that run isn't that 10K, it's that short run. They can get away with murder out there. If the girls let them go, it's going to be very, very difficult to get them back over that short run. It's this racing does set you up for some very aggressive, attacking style of racing, which swimmers tend to like. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Well, we've lost Vicky Holland. She's got a Achilles injury. She's out for the year. But two very experienced Brits in non-Stanford and Jodie Swallow. What do you think?
Both have had, both of them are they're both competitors. Once again, both tough girls, both very, very tough girls. Again, the racing this year hasn't been fantastic. But I think when you get on this start line, they're all going to be in the same position, I think, because this isn't a normal race. They're not all used to what they've known in the past. So they're all going to be doing the unknown. They're all going to be feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit unsure of themselves, which I think plays into their hands. So we're going to see that take part. The men had that in Hamilton Island. This is going to be the part for the women, which, is fantastic to see. By the way, I know you got a bit of stick for not having them in Hamilton Island, but we do have a great field. You did get a lot of stick for that, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, we did. Well, there was always plans, there were always ambitions to have the women's racing. We've got the best in the business now racing. On the American side, we've got four Americans. We don't have Gwen. Gwen's just given birth to her first baby, and but we, congratulations. She'll be back. Right. Super League, yeah. But you look at the depth.
Sorry.
Oh, you look at the depth right now on with British racing, we talk about the Brownlee effect, and in American racing right now, you look at the Gwen effect, and it's really trickled down into the women's ranks. And you've got young Taylor Spivey, we've got Kirsten Casper, who's had an epic year this year, an absolutely incredible year. She's all over the world rankings. We've got Summer Cook, again, solid and sturdy all the way through, and one more American in Katie Zaferes, the Olympian. So four. So, thoughts on these girls? I know you watched the Olympics with a lot of eagerness.
I did watch the Olympics, and I enjoyed that, the way that played out. But I think that these girls are going to be excited that they have an opportunity to step up here. With Gwen not here, they have an opportunity to make a name for themselves. And I think one, or obviously maybe more than one, could actually do that. And the opportunity is there for them to take, especially with this style of racing.
It's a long time between Olympic cycles, as you know. 4 years in athletic life is an eternity, and Gwen's taken a year off, right? And rightly so. And these other girls have come onto the circuit. They're racing. Young Taylor Spivey this year had an epic race in Leeds, finishing second, biggest World Cup event of the WTS event of the year. She finished second there. She was third. She was third in Hamburg. Incredible. She's come from nowhere. She's a full-time lifeguard in California. She's the Baywatch girl. So to see her onto that pro scene and put her hand up and think, you know what, there's a real future for me in this, alongside Summer Cook and Kirsten Casper. It's going to be a difficult ask for Gwen Jorgensen. Yeah, we're talking about a super talent, but it's a very, very difficult ask. And this is where I think you're going to see just how good Nicola Spirig is how quickly Gwen Jorgensen can come back, because the game improves year on year. The American girls are deep in talent, and only 3 go to the Olympics. There's four right now that are all put their hand up, 5 if you count Gwen. So there's going to be 2 disappointed people come Tokyo.
Right. And like you said, the year after the Olympics is normally a softer year.
Yes.
You know, you build up, then you have this big Olympics, and then you're kind of let down again, and it's hard to get yourself, say, motivated, but it does give the chance for the people that didn't get into the Olympics a chance to shine. And with Gwen out having her first, it's going to be interesting to see how these girls take hold of this situation, and they are already. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are already taking hold. But once again, I don't think it's going to be a problem for Gwen to get back. She's a competitor. I've been following her on Instagram and stuff. It doesn't look like she's missed a beat in the training. She was training. She was training. Don't get me wrong. Even when she was pregnant, she was training. So I don't think, and we know with women coming back after pregnancy, they become even stronger sometimes.
Yes.
And they're hungry to race. They're motivated again. They're fresh. They've got new inspiration. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. But this does give the chance for the girls to ever go without Gwen or in the spotlight.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think there's a couple of the girls, you know, we talk about, you know, on the men's side, those, I say this with the utmost respect, those middle pack guys that can really disrupt the play and really influence a race. If they're with the front group, they can do some serious damage. If they're not in the front group, they can bring the slower athletes up. And when you look at the women's field, 3 in particular come to mind when I talk about athletes like that. They're always in the show. That's MCSHANE, which is the French girl, 27 years of age. She was a 2009 junior world champion. She had some issues before Rio, made the French Olympic team, but had to step out because of injury. She's a 2011 elite European champion. She was the under 23. I think she was 2nd or 3rd in the under 23 world championships in 2010. A super French talent. A couple of injury issues. Had a pretty good year this year. She's really starting to come back into some form. She's part of that French military team, right. You know, and they their athletes.
They do that very well.
Yeah, exactly. And Barbara Rivieros, the Chilean, she's been to 3 Olympics. She was 5th in Rio, a girl we don't talk about a lot. A super runner, has some weaknesses in the swim, and they can be nullified by someone like MCSHANE. And Rachel Klamer, who's dating Richard Murray, spectacular young Dutch girl, 2-time Olympian, a couple of world WTS wins and places. I think she was 2nd this year in one of the World Cups. She's been all over the sprint distance racing. She got 3rd in the mixed relay championships for Holland. A spectacular racer. Those 3 athletes, they're not your best swimmers, they're not your best bikers, but they are very, very consistent, and they're the ones that could do damage and open this race right up.
Yeah, exactly. And you always look at, you know, what we said, the main protagonists, but the athletes that you just mentioned, all 3 of them, they're the kind of athletes that can make a race happen and make that elastic. I keep talking about this elastic, but it is very, very important that it will be stretched, and that is good enough to make that snap from all the guys watching the top girls to it gives the opportunity for like we call the sleepers in there to come along and sneak in a bit.
Yeah.
They're all going to be watching. They're all going to be watching themselves because they're not really sure what they're doing. I'm going to be honest with you. They're not really sure how this style of racing is going to happen. They're not going to really sure how the body is going to react. And different from what we did in the 90s, we don't go back again, but we didn't have to back it up the next day. These girls have to go hard on the first day, and again they've got to back it up the next day. So it's going to be interesting to see how the body reacts trying to do that as well.
Yeah. Do you find it interesting, you know, when we talk about triathlon over the last 2 decades, even more, 3 decades. You think of the Beijing Olympics with Jan Frodeno winning the Olympic Games there. You look at Ironmans in Hawaii with the Germans being so successful.
And you, Chris. And you, mate.
Yeah. But you look at if you look at Super League, we've got 1 German racing. In the men's, none of the men could make the cut. And in the women's, we've got young Laura Lindemann. The Germans in this short distance racing, since the retirement of Jan and since the moving away of a lot of their talent, they didn't send a team to Rio. And young Laura, the 21-year-old German, she's a European junior world champ. She's in 2014, she was under 23 world championship. She was 28th in Rio. She's 21. This girl, they're pegging the entire German federation is backing this girl. She's their next wave. Your thoughts on her? Have you watched the race at all?
I haven't seen her race, but I know what you're saying. They do love their, racing, the Germans. They love it. And when Jan came along and, won the Olympics, it kind of had a resurgence, it kind of woke the German people up to say, oh, there is more racing outside Ironman. So they've gone kind of back again because he's gone on to win big races, Ironman and longer distance. So they've gone back into that kind of long distance mode again. So they do need someone, especially like this, to come along, wake everyone up again and say, this is also a part of racing. And it's a new style that they probably won't be aware of even. I mean, in saying that, when and you did it in Koblenz, there were 10, 20, 25,000 people racing Koblenz for our like super sprint. It was they love it. They love their sport over there. So it's interesting. She had the opportunity to really get hold of this and take it by the scruff of the neck and put Germany back on the map short distance wise.
She's a girl. She watched the London Olympic Games as a swimmer, a young kid swimming. She saw that great sprint finish from Nicola Spirig, who is her athletic idol right now. She's about to race her idol. She took up triathlon the following day. She went to the Rio Olympics as a triathlete. Can you believe that? 4 years later, converted from swimming. This year, she finished 3rd in Hamburg. We've all done that WTS event in Hamburg. It is ridiculous, the biggest event on the calendar for them. She was 3rd there. The crowd went awesome. It went bananas for her. She is a real talent. And if you're going to pin you're German and you're pinning your hopes on anyone, Laura Lindemann is your girl, and I do not think she's going to disappoint. She's one that I believe can win this race.
Really?
Yes, I have a lot of time for this girl. I think she is the future.
I like that.
Yeah, very good athlete. Very good athlete. But and another one I like, and I know we've got always back the Aussies, but there's 2 Australians. You've got young Emma Jeffcott. She's a signing for we signed her on. She came from the surf life saving background in Australia. Fantastic.
They can swim.
They love this multi-discipline racing, right? And she's come across the triathlon, had a very successful debut through the under-23s. She's really been picked up by the talent program within Australia and ticked as a future Olympian, a future gold medal prospect, which is very difficult. It's a very competitive environment. She's in there. I think she can do a lot of damage. So look for young Emma to do amazing things. Obviously, Charlotte McShane. I always call her young Charlotte, but she's been racing now on the pro circuit for almost 10 years, I think. She was part of the Australian World Championship winning team in Hamburg this year when they won the mixed relay. She's 15th in Abu Dhabi this year. She was 6th on the Gold Coast. She was 9th in Leeds, 8th in Montreal. She was born. Her dad's a triathlete. I've got a lot of time for Charlotte McShane. So on the Australian side, those 2 girls are going to wave the Australian flag very, 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 very proudly. And I think both of them could do some damage. Emma in particular. Charlotte will be a more of an opportunistic racer. I love the way she sits, she kicks. She's very, very tactical. And given the right chance, I think she'll strike and could win one of these events, one of the stages.
Like you said, I think there's so many girls that have the opportunity to take hold and just nip in a little victory. Not looking, they're there. You're always looking at the main people, but then someone comes along and takes something that you weren't expecting. And this style of racing does allow for that to happen. It's not as structured as we see on the ITU circuit. It does allow for those gaps to open up and for people just to go ahead and be aggressive and just probably do stuff that they probably wouldn't do in a normal style of what they're used to in racing. It's just a matter of them taking the opportunity, believing that they can do it. But once it's given to them, they've got to. You can't half kind of go for the opportunity. You either go for it, you're all in, or you don't do it at all. And that's whether these girls can really attack it. No reason why they can't.
Yeah, so exactly like the men, they're racing over the triple mix format on Saturday and over the eliminator format on the Sunday. The orders will reverse. So the men will be the first race on Saturday and the women will be the first race on Sunday. So it's a reversed order, but exactly the same formats. The triple mix being the mixed discipline racing, which problems with in Hamilton Island, and having to back up again and race that equalizer the next day, the eliminator the next day. I'm sorry. The eliminator, that format where you must progress through each round. So the bottom 10 people are eliminated each time until the final. Very, very tough racing. And I know we talked about it before we went on camera. We used to race one of this stuff. I couldn't walk the following day. How do you think that's going to affect a lot of these girls that haven't raced back-to-back days? It's very, very new. Not only the format's different, but this back-to-back racing, very, very different.
I think but they may be a little bit apprehensive at the start, but once that gun goes off and once they see unity or a victory, they smell a victory, I think all that thoughts of the next day are going to go out the window when they're racing. Now, as soon as they've finished, as soon as they've crossed the line, they've got to be thinking about how can I recover about the next day, the next race. So I think there's kind of two things going on here. Like we said, you're going to be them racing where the opportunities are going to be given, and then as soon as they're finished racing, they've got to think about recovery for them to be ready for the next day, which we didn't have to worry about too much. But like you said, it's going to be interesting to see who bounces back. Some of them are going to have a poor day on the Saturday. How's that going to affect them psychologically for the day? It's going to be an interesting couple of days.
Yeah, well, you were right down there in the oven in Hamilton Island. You were in that transition area with all the professional men over the 3 days. You saw it on day one. There was sheer carnage. On day two, there was a lot of guys thinking they're not going to be able to get through this. It's definitely one of the decisive things in winning Super League racing. Richard Murray did it better than anyone in Hamilton Island, made it look easy. That was a fitness thing. Very, very different here. You've come off the season. Everybody's coming here in tip-top condition. Do you think it suits the younger athlete, the older athlete? Is it experiencing? What is it, Spence?
I think it's a combination. I think you do. Let's be honest. None of them have got a great deal of experience at this style of racing. But it is going to be the fact that they're going to have the experience to recover and to recoup and not get too excited. Okay, maybe they have a great result on one race, but let's not get carried away with that. Let's think about the next race, and the next race is going to be the person that can control their emotions for the next day or the next race. That is going to have that consistent thought process, and all of them have the ability. Well, not all of them, but most of them have the ability to sneak a victory. It's just how they deal with that emotion and that recovery that will be the key. It's going to be interesting to see which ones, like you said, some recover better than others, and that's just, there's no one shoe fits all. People recover quickly. Don't. They'll definitely get found out anyway.
Okay, well. We'll go out on a limb here, mate. We're gonna keep this one short tonight. Who do you think can win this race? Right? Remember, to win the round of Jersey. You know, they're called rounds, just so everybody knows. Each one of our events is called a round. The races are the format. So there's a race on Saturday, race on Sunday, and what happens?
Why don't you go for change?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I know Darfabet is one of our big sponsors, a big online gaming company sponsoring our event. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't know what the odds are on her, but I'm going to say young Desiree Rayner, the Canadian, 18 years of age, this girl. I know her parents, right? She's been doing triathlon since she was 5. She's out of that rich group of triathletes from BC, British Columbia, and Canada. Incredible little athlete. She's an 18-year-old prodigy. They're calling her the next Simon Whitfield. If she's anything like Simon Whitfield, she's got a mega career about her. She just broke the Canadian 3,000-meter record as a runner. It was by 10 seconds. She didn't just beat it; she belted it. She's a junior world champion in 2006. She was sixth in the junior elites in Cozumel. She has never owned a brand new bike, so she's been doing this all on borrowed bike.
I read that.
Fantastic story. And this girl is in epic form this year. She is young, and she reminds me. And for those of you who can get back, Melanie Mitchell, back in the old days within Australia, we used to race style of format, and a young girl called Melanie Mitchell and Nicole Hackett came along. Nicole went on to win an ITU World Championship, same age as this girl, and she belted the best in the business. Back then it was McKeely Jones, it was Emma Carney, Jackie Gallagher, these athletes, and these two young girls came along and made them look ordinary. And I got a gut feeling this girl may do the same. The short distance run, she doesn't have that strength endurance that the Nicola Spirigs and that have, but on pure speed alone, she'll outrun them every day of the week. She's young and vibrant. She's got a brand new bike. Her parents are coming across. It's a beautiful story.
And the bike is going to give it away.
And I think she's going to pay 100 to 1, and I think there's a lot of money to be made, a Darfa bet. So I'm going to put some money on her.
I'm going to go safe. I'm going to go safe on this one. I think one of the British girls will absolutely will crack it, and I'm going for Jodie. I like the way she races. She's an aggressive style of racer. She's strong. I think she's going to recover well. I think she's going to bounce back well. I think she's got all the she has the ability to do very, very well in this style of racing. And I think Emma also, there's going to be, I think that English thing, that kind of rivalry is going to push them non-stat. She's Welsh, but non-stat. But the British girls, I could get in trouble for that. All them girls are going to be fighting. None of them wants to give an inch. So I'm going to go for Jodie.
Is that the British? That's because you're a proud Brit, Spencer. You live in the state.
I made a mistake with Alistair. But to bet against Alistair, you got to really go out on a limb. And that was a mistake in Hamilton Island, and he got trounced. I don't think that's going to happen with this girl. I don't think she's going to get trounced. Like I said, it's very difficult because it's all so new for them. They really are going to be, they're going to be a fish out there. They're not going to know what to do, how to, it's going to be interesting. Hopefully they've looked at the men and seen how they attacked it. So they've got that advantage, but it's going to be interesting to see how quickly they recover and can bounce back and do it again the next day. But I think she's got the ability to absolutely bounce back and get the job done.
Agreed. And for those who are listening, or anyone out there that watches this, tell us who you think's going to win.
Exactly.
A lot of people after the Facebook lives going, oh, you should have asked this, and why do you think this person's going to win? A lot of people have an opinion. We love those opinions at Super League. So jot down below who you think's going to win, but tell me why you think they're going to win, because I want to make sure we're calling that out on race day. We're there in the cauldron. We're seeing these athletes go around. So I'm keen to see just how informed our Super League fans are. So it's one thing to call a name because they wear the same flag as you, but I want you to give me a reason why you think your athlete's going to win the race. And those of you out there, make sure you follow us on Instagram. I know Stacey in the background does an amazing job with all our social media. All the athletes are engaged now. We're 3 weeks out, Spence. We'll be getting on here more and more, and we'll be around the corner.
I'm excited to get this thing going. Round number 2, but it'd be good to get everyone involved. All the people watching. We could sit here and talk till we're blue in the face, but we need people to give their opinion. We want that. We want people to say you're talking a load of old rubbish or something. We need that kind of input because we want a discussion. That's what we want, and that's just what it's about. And then when the push comes to shove, let's see who's going to be correct on the day. It's exciting stuff. It's coming. We're close. We're getting close now.
Yeah. It's too late for the guys. They're either ready or they're not. A lot of them are prepping up to hit back to Europe now, and a lot of them are already there. They got a major event the week before. We'll all be in Jersey.
What's the week before?
The week before is Rotterdam, the final of the WTS event. So it'll crown their world champion, Spence. Not like the days when there was one race. They have a series now to crown the world.
I've lost him.
Yeah, the Rotterdam.
You're right. It'd be perfect preparation for this race. So we're going to see. Let's see what they got. Let's see what they got.
But we need everybody out there to ask us a question so we know what to ask of those athletes when we're on island. But we'll be getting back together again, you and I, mate, in probably 4 or 5 days to talk about the progress, another Facebook Live, and prepping to get to Europe. So that's our girls.
Forward to it.
Yeah, that's our girls list, and it's going to be an epic race.
Indeed.
Thank you.